The first troop stands in front of the flesh capsule MUZAN is locked in, along with TANJIRO. They see that they are unable to reach it as it is suspended over a steep fall into the depths of the Infinity Castle. One of the Demon Slayers suggests that they should slice at the outcroppings of flesh. However, he is interrupted by MUZAN bursting out of the capsule. The demon kills the entire first troop in seconds. Korea reiterates his orders for the troop to maintain its distance, as they would only serve as food for MUZAN to recover. The crow's warnings are wasted, however, as the entire troop has already been killed by MUZAN, who also strikes at the crow, beheading it in one stroke. MUZAN says that when one lives for 1,000 years, they lose the feeling of enjoying the taste of their food, but now that he was hungry, he found the taste of his victims to be incredibly delicious. He thanks Kagaya Ubuyashiki for unwittingly preparing this feast for him, and says that he is unaware of which of his children lead the Demon Slayer Corps now, but they are quite superb. He thinks that he might turn the new Oyakata into a demon to replace his now dead subordinates if they bow before him, and he holds up Tamayo's severed head. Korea orders the second troop to retreat at once to prevent MUZAN from recovering any more of his strength by eating more people. Meanwhile, MUZAN gloats to Tamayo and says that her medicine to cure demons and turn them back into humans had failed. The woman responds that this would be the day when MUZAN would finally go to hell. The demon flippantly responds that hundreds of people had said those same words to him before, but they had yet to come true. Tamayo tells him to give back her husband and children, and MUZAN coldly looks at her and says that in that case, she could go and join the family that she had killed as he crushes her head in his hands. Elsewhere in the Infinity Castle, Yushiro immediately falls to the ground while running, tearing up on the floor and gritting his teeth in rage at Tamayo's death. MUZAN swiftly makes short work of the second troop as well, slicing through them all in one move as Kiria orders them to fall back, asking where the other Hashira are. MUZAN says not one of them was of use to him as he killed them, and declares that he will end the Demon Slayer Corps on this night. Kiria Ubuyashiki panics and regrets the great loss of life among the Demon Slayers who had been slain by the newly reawakened MUZAN, blaming himself for the failure. He begins to lose focus on what is around him and fears that he has wasted the years of effort by his predecessors. Kanata, though, slaps him out of this, much to their sister Kina's shock, and yells at him to keep himself together and issue his next orders as the battle is still ongoing. Realizing his father and forefathers had gone through all the same pressure, Kiria recomposes himself and orders for his reinforcements to be sent to MUZAN's location and to focus their power on one point to get rid of MUZAN once and for all. Kanata heads back to her seat, and Kiria thanks both his sisters for being there to support him. They both tearfully accept his thanks. A crow announces to the other Demon Slayers that MUZAN has been revived and passes on Kiria's orders for the other Hashira to gather immediately. Mitsuri is shocked to hear the news, as Obanai curses the fact that he and Mitsuri are being held back by Nakime, while the others had already slain the upper-ranked demons, even at the cost of Moshiro and Genya's lives. Mitsuri is confused at the order they have received and wonders if that means they should mess with the other Hashira and leave Nakime alone. Meanwhile, MUZAN, who is standing amidst the corpses of all the Demon Slayers he had killed, suddenly teleports into a large room with Tanjiro and Giyu joining him. Tanjiro is shocked to see the demon, and his mind floods with memories of his family's murder, Nezuko as a demon, and all of his fallen comrades. Enraged, he grips his sword tightly and looks fiercely at MUZAN, but Giyu tells him to calm himself down. MUZAN begins to speak to them, saying that their persistence sickened him to the bottom of his heart. Continuing, the demon says that the Demon Slayers always talked about avenging their families or friends, believing that instead, they themselves should just be thankful for the fact that they had not died, and simply go back to the way they used to live their lives. Tanjiro is shocked at these words. MUZAN compares himself to a natural disaster, saying that no one seeks vengeance on earthquakes or storms when they kill people. Concluding, he says that the dead cannot be brought back to life and that they should all just go back to earning their daily wages. He says that most humans do that, and the only reason that Demon Slayers did not do the same was because they were a bunch of deviants, and he was sick of dealing with deviants. MUZAN says that he is the only one who truly wants the state of affairs to come to an end. Tanjiro comes to a boiling point and says, with calm, seething rage, that MUZAN is a being that should not be allowed to exist. As Tanjiro stares down MUZAN, the young Demon Slayer notes to himself how this is the first time he has ever felt such sheer rage at any living being. Knowing that the Demon Lord will not be defeated by simply cutting off his head, they will have to drag him out into the sun to truly be rid of him for good. Aiming to stall MUZAN and buy enough time for the other Demon Slayers to join them, Tanjiro resolves to gather any information from the skirmish that could prove useful to tell the others and make the task easier for all of them. MUZAN suddenly swings his tubes at both Tanjiro and Giyu, but the Demon Slayers are able to dodge the attack. Giyu just barely blocks the attack with a water-breathing 11th form, Dead Calm, noting the speed of the attacks, and also that the tubes are as sharp as swords. Tanjiro is entirely unable to keep up with the attacks and dodges them on pure instinct, but still attempts to get through the tubes closer to MUZAN. He manages to do so, but before he is able to attack MUZAN, the demon slices at him and manages to cut his eye. Giyu comes in close to scoop Tanjiro up and away from MUZAN, warning the boy not to get too close, saying that MUZAN is far stronger than an upper rank. MUZAN asks if 3 Hashira are really enough to accomplish this task. The Count takes Giyu and Tanjiro by surprise as MUZAN continues, saying that Obanai and Mitsuri had already been killed by his subordinate Nakime, as he had seen through her eyes. The Demon Slayers dodge another wave of attacks from MUZAN, and Tanjiro urges himself not to become a burden now that he has lost an eye, attempting to use his sense of smell to keep up. Tanjiro is shocked as he finds that MUZAN's attacks are so fast he is unable to even smell them, finding himself unable to keep up his breaths. Tanjiro's new blind spot gives him a harsh reminder of its existence as he smacks into a wall on his right side. Giyu calls out to the boy as MUZAN launches attacks his way. Suddenly, Mitsuri bursts into the scene by breaking through the wall behind MUZAN, and both the demon and Giyu look on in shock at the fact that she is still alive. Unleashing a love-breathing 6th form, cat-legged winds of love. Mitsuri looks on dumbfounded as MUZAN shrugs off the attack with ease and doesn't even take a scratch from it. While this happens, Obanai picks up Tanjiro and orders him to fall back instead of being a burden, to which Tanjiro is grateful that Obanai and Mitsuri are still somehow alive. Obanai does a double take in shock, telling Tanjiro to worry about himself first. MUZAN wonders how the 2 Hashira he had seen to be dead could still be alive. He yells Nakime's name, asking what is going on, and Yushiro responds, saying that he is controlling her right now. The castle begins to shake violently as Yushiro yells with tears in his eyes that MUZAN had committed the gravest sin in the world by killing Tamayo, and declares that he will wipe the Demon Lord from the face of the world. The Hashira battle MUZAN, but the site of their battle repeatedly changes within the Infinity Castle, causing Mitsuri to get dizzy. MUZAN smiles at them, and the love Hashira cowers in fear, wishing for Guillaume to arrive and aid them. She says that Yushiro's plan to have them pretend to be dead is now in shambles. Flashing back to Yushiro explaining his plan to her, Mitsuri recalls how the demon told her to cooperate with him if she wasn't an idiot. She said to herself that she wasn't one, agreed, and Yushiro told her to distract Nakime so that he would be able to sneak up behind her and take control of her mind, showing her a false vision to feed MUZAN of all the Hashira being dead so that they would be able to storm him at once, catching him unaware. Back at the battle with MUZAN, the landscape continues to rapidly change as the Demon Lord identifies that Yushiro is controlling Nakime. He attempts to wrestle back control of Nakime's mind from Yushiro, and manages to weaken the young demon's hold, even beginning to spread his cells to Yushiro's hands. A demon slayer next to Yushiro offers to be eaten by the demon to strengthen him and give him a better chance against MUZAN, but Yushiro initially rejects this notion. MUZAN's attention is suddenly brought back to the battlefield as Giyu and Obanai attack him with water-breathing 4th form, Striking Tide, and serpent-breathing 1st form, Winding Serpent Slash, respectively. Yushiro begins to fight back while MUZAN is distracted and manages to have Nakime change the battlefield again, leaving MUZAN and the Hashira falling. As he falls, MUZAN reaches forward and clenches his fist, destroying Nakime's skull. Sensing that the castle is soon going to collapse, Yushiro attempts to transport all of the Demon Slayers out of the castle before it is destroyed. The floor reappears beneath them all again as the Demon Slayers continue to fight against MUZAN and dodge his attacks. Tanjiro gets hit by one of the attacks and his right shoulder begins bleeding. The castle begins to creak, and Obanai senses that it will soon be destroyed, noting that if it happens, only MUZAN will survive. MUZAN launches an attack at her, taking her completely by surprise. Tanjiro rushes forward to intervene and swings his blade, flinging a demon slayer's broken sword straight into Muzan's head, taking the demon by surprise and infuriating him further. The castle finally stops moving as it bursts through the ground to the outside, flinging them all to the surface. Tanjiro regains consciousness and sees the night sky above him, finally back at the surface after Yushiro had worked so hard to get them all there. Realizing that they are in the middle of a city, Kirya Ubuyashiki sweats, saying that they were flung much further than he had expected. He asks his sister how long until dawn, and she tells him that there is still an hour and a half before daybreak. Kirya's eyes widen at the knowledge that there's still so much longer left. A crow tells the demon slayers how much longer they have until dawn. Taking note of this, Tanjiro looks around to confirm that his comrades are doing all right, relieved that the Hashira who had been with him are all safe. Tanjiro moves out to find Muzan. Suddenly, the demon lord bursts through a pile of rubble, sending it flying in all directions. Enraged, Muzan taunts the demon slayers and dares them to keep him there until dawn if they can even do so. He launches a wave of attacks that the Hashira all evade and then begin to attack Muzan. Obanai with serpent-breathing third form, Coil Choke, and Mitsuri with her love-breathing second form, Love Pangs, and Giyu with water-breathing eighth form, Waterfall Basin. Obanai manages to slice through Muzan's neck, but is surprised to see that his blade goes through the demon without causing any damage. He realizes that Muzan is regenerating instantly. Muzan resumes his attacks on all the Hashira, but he is pushed back by the junior demon slayers who wish to give their lives to take out Muzan. All of them begin attacking him together, quickly making an opening for those who are able to fend off Muzan, giving them a chance to survive. The Hashira are horrified at the chaotic battle scene and their subordinates being killed one by one to protect them. Tanjiro struggles for air, unable to keep fighting due to the pain of his wounds. Muzan explains that those who die immediately from his attacks are fortunate, for even a wound would be fatal. Those who die from them will suffer greater pain. He nods towards Tanjiro as the boy lies on the ground writhing in pain, with a tumor growing out the entire right half of his face. Muzan says that he mixes his blood into all of his attacks, and tells Tanjiro that he won't become a demon since the concentration of his blood in his attacks is too high. He would be poisoned instead, destroying Tanjiro's cells and ending him. Tanjiro continues to struggle in pain, and Muzan declares that the boy is dead. Giyu, Obanai, and Mitsuri continue to battle Muzan. The tumor can be seen growing just above his eye. They are all struck by this, but Muzan unleashes another flurry of attacks and commends them for still being able to move, noting that those with Demon Slayer marks would not fall so easily. Mitsuri's wound flares as she is unable to move, yelling at her two companions to protect themselves. Muzan's outstretched whip is suddenly cleaved off by Gyomei to Mitsuri's relief. The stone Hashira apologizes for being late as Muzan recognizes him as the demon slayer who slew Kokushibo. Muzan is suddenly taken aback as he is sliced clean down the middle from behind by Sanemi, who also flings a few bottles of oil towards the demon. Muzan slashes them, getting drenched in the liquid. Sanemi backflips away and lights a matchstick, throwing it towards Muzan and setting him on fire. Muzan cries out that Sanemi played a dirty trick, to which the Hashira responds that it's the perfect fit for the demon, saying he will grind him to smithereens. Yushiro injects Tanjiro multiple times with the antidote to Muzan's poison. The demon slayers around him ask if injecting Tanjiro so many times is safe for him. He quiets them and says that Tanjiro's condition has been worsening since Muzan struck him. The demon slayers try to free Tanjiro's katana from his hands, but he has a very tight grip on it. Yushiro takes this as a sign that Tanjiro still has the will to fight. Suddenly, the demon slayer holding Tanjiro's head yells out, saying that he felt his pulse return. They attempt to wake him up, and when one of them mentions that Muzan might get away, they are all completely stunned as Tanjiro's katana begins to creak, and his grip on it tightens considerably, and he jolts back awake. Back at the fight with Muzan, a Kakushi hidden out of sight peers over to see how things are faring and hopes that they might hold out until dawn. Gyomei cleaves off the left half of Muzan's torso, and Sanemi rushes over to a pile of seals on the ground and puts one on his forehead. As soon as he puts it on, he can see Kanao, Zenitsu, and Inosuke. Inosuke declares that he wants a bright red blade like the Hashira. Sanemi launches the wind-breathing 7th form. Gale sudden gusts towards Muzan. Gyomei is relieved at the arrival of the new fighters, as it allows him to concentrate more. Looking into the transparent world, he sees that Muzan has multiple hearts and brains, and thus will not die if they chop his head off. He also knows that they move around his entire body, making it difficult to actually strike them. An idea suddenly strikes him. If the others could also see Muzan in the transparent world, they would be able to strike the organs simultaneously. He calls out to the others to look closely at Muzan's body and see if their vision changes. Obanai is able to do so and is shocked at the sight. He doesn't have long to ponder this idea, however, as Muzan launches a devastating attack in all directions, crushing everything around him. The Kikuchi is shocked at the sound and looks over again to see what had happened. He is dumbfounded as he sees Muzan standing alone in the heavily damaged surrounding area, looking right next to him. He is even more baffled as he sees Gyomei knocked into the building he is hiding behind, having lost his leg. His horror only grows as he sees Sanemi flung into the upper story of a tall building, while Obanai, Zenitsu, and Inosuke are all unconscious in the rubble, and Gyu's sword arm has been severed. Kanao's sword falls to pieces as her seal falls off, and she falls to her knees with Muzan right in front of her. She tries to urge herself to stand up and attack him, but she can only stare transfixed at him in fear and shock. The Kikuchi rushes from his hiding place to attack, but Tanjiro interrupts Muzan's attack with the Hinokami Kagura, Beneficent Radiance, cutting off Muzan's arm, and Muzan looks at it in concern, as it does not grow back immediately. Tanjiro apologizes to Kanao for being late, handing her off to the Kikuchi. He turns to face Muzan, who says that the boy looks positively awful and taunts him, saying that in his current condition it is difficult to tell who the demon is between the two of them. As he gazes at the boy, Muzan is reminded of Yoriichi and says that he makes his skin crawl. Tanjiro challenges Muzan, saying that they should finish it all. Tanjiro thought about how his understanding drastically changed after seeing the proper forms of the Hinokami Kagura with his own eyes. He noticed wasted movements, variations in the angle of his wrists, differences in footwork, and the intervals between breaths. Tanjiro stands in front of Muzan and thanks Yoriichi for his actions, including sparing Tamayo, whose own works had aided the demon slayers, and for showing his sun breathing, with which Tanjiro could assuredly defeat Muzan. He thinks to himself about how he had pondered over what the 13th form could be, and how he noticed the 1st and 12th forms had similar names, recalling that his father had told him that if he learned to breathe properly, he would be able to dance forever. Tanjiro's suspicions were confirmed when he saw Muzan's current state. Performing all 12th forms sequentially would complete a ring that would result in the 13th form. Tanjiro plans to attack Muzan by connecting all forms together and continuing to strike his brain and heart until dawn. Realizing the gravity of his task, Tanjiro understands how someone such as the Flame Hashira, who spoke with Yoriichi about his fight with Muzan, could lose confidence, believing that he doesn't have Yoriichi or even his own father's skill and unsure of how he would prevent Muzan from escaping as he did against Yoriichi. He asks how he can do something even the great sun breather couldn't do. Steeling himself, Tanjiro resolves to try his best, rallying himself to keep his heart burning. He charges at Muzan, who begins to rapidly attack him as he uses sun breathing. Seeing Tanjiro's attacks reminds Muzan of Yoriichi, and he cries out that he is a ghost. He slashes around so violently that the ground around them cracks into pieces and he lands a hit on Tanjiro, who is pushed back. Meanwhile, Tanjiro notices how Muzan had been able to defeat everyone else. He had 9 whips growing out from his back in addition to his own 2 arms, and he also had 8 even faster whips that grew out of his thighs. Realizing that since the demon could change shape, he needs to stop thinking of Muzan as having a fixed form to avoid being taken by surprise. Tanjiro attempts to combine all the forms to perform the 13th form by using the sun-breathing dance and raging sun, but is thwarted midway during the fire wheel and pushed back yet again. Tanjiro says that he will connect all their forms, as that's how they were designed to be, and resolves to succeed. MUZAN notes that living creatures are able to tap into reserves of strength that they are not aware of to escape death. He looks on to see Tanjiro doing the same in an attempt to connect all 12 forms of the sun breathing. MUZAN sees that Tanjiro has turned his blade bright red, just as the other Hashira had, but is unconcerned, as he says that the Demon Slayer's attacks are nowhere near as powerful as those of Yoriichi. As the young Demon Slayer connects the sun-breathing Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance and Fire Wheel, he successfully manages to connect 6 of the forms. However, MUZAN's organs keep moving within his body, preventing him from attacking. His torso begins to feel fatigued. Tanjiro heaves and slows down, but he keeps telling himself to focus on 1 second at a time while connecting the sun-breathing Fake Rainbow and Burning Bone Summer Sun. MUZAN notices that Tanjiro's attacks begin to lose their accuracy and surmises that he will soon lose his red blade as well, saying that he is yet another swordsman who will never live up to Yoriichi. Launching another attack towards Tanjiro, MUZAN manages to connect and knock the boy back. Tanjiro coughs up blood, and MUZAN whips at him yet again, barely managing to evade it, swiftly regaining his footing. Tanjiro resumes his task of connecting together all forms of the sun breathing. MUZAN jerks his head to the side as he hears a crow announce that there are 59 minutes until dawn. Tanjiro continues by using sun-breathing solar heat haze, beneficent radiance, clear blue sky, fire wheel, raging sun, and flame dance, yelling at Tanjiro to stop jumping around. MUZAN attempts to attack the young Demon Slayer again with renewed ferocity, but Tanjiro dodges his attacks with sun-breathing Fake Rainbow and follows that up with dance-setting Sun Transformation, Burning Bone Summer Sun, Dragon Sun Halo, Head Dance, and Sunflower Thrust. With that, he successfully connects all 12th forms of the sun breathing, and with renewed hope, he determines to keep doing so until daybreak with even greater speed and accuracy. Meanwhile, Tanjiro continues to connect the different forms of the sun breathing to defeat MUZAN as he matches blows with the demon. His left sleeve is ripped off, and he dodges back to avoid the attacks, seeing that it is not enough to merely connect the forms. Tanjiro realizes he must accurately target all of MUZAN's hearts and brains. However, just as he attempts to see through MUZAN to be able to do so, he almost blacks out due to lack of oxygen. Shocked at this, Tanjiro quickly attempts to regain his bearings and sniff MUZAN out instead, but slips and is almost hit in an attack from the demon before Obanai intervenes and scoops him out of harm's way, quickly dodging all of MUZAN's attacks. Obanai successfully carries Tanjiro out of danger. Tanjiro's vision clears up, and he is overjoyed to recognize the striped Haori of Obanai. This quickly transforms into horror, though, as he sees that the serpent Hashira's face has been mutilated with slashes across his face and through his eyes. Shocked, Tanjiro asks Obanai if he was injured while saving him, but the Hashira hastily explains that it was during MUZAN's attack from before, which had knocked out all of the Hashira. Continuing to dodge attacks from MUZAN, Obanai tells Tanjiro to quit worrying about the others. As the boy offers to help out, he says the vision impairment will not affect him greatly, as one of his eyes has always been weak, and he has a snake friend, Kaburamaru. Confirming that Tanjiro has recovered, Obanai lets go of the boy and quickly engages in battle with MUZAN. With Kaburamaru's aid, Obanai dodges all of the demon's attacks as the surrounding buildings are destroyed. Tanjiro rushes to use sun breathing again to help split MUZAN's attention. MUZAN notices that the snake is relaying information to Obanai, allowing the Hashira to dodge attacks. He is infuriated that such a simple animal is able to read through his attacks. Tanjiro and Obanai match MUZAN's attacks in tandem, and the demon is further annoyed at being unable to kill such seriously wounded humans. Realizing that it is due to the aging potion, MUZAN continues to evade their blows. Tanjiro sees that the demon has gradually gotten weaker, but is barely hanging on himself, trying his best to avoid oxygen deprivation. Resolving to help Obanai, who has helped him so much already, Tanjiro is shocked to see MUZAN's body begin to change color as old scars appear all over it. Realizing that these were the wounds Yoriichi gave MUZAN so long ago, which the demon was never able to recover from, Tanjiro says that Yoriichi is still showing them the way. MUZAN Kibutsuji reminisces about when he first saw Yoriichi, recalling how he had initially thought the swordsman to be weak, as Yorichi exuded no drive or desire to fight him, nor any hatred towards him. MUZAN had never expected Yorichi would be able to cut off his head and wound him in such a way that his body, right down to the cells, would continue to hurt as if being hit with sunlight. MUZAN continues, saying it was entirely out of the blue, and no one could have expected it. He acknowledges that Yorichi had been the real monster instead of him. Tanjiro rallies himself to take advantage of MUZAN's growing exhaustion and newfound weak spots. Noticing that these scars were all moving across the demon's body, Tanjiro concludes that they all mark MUZAN's heart and brain. Now, even though he cannot see through MUZAN anymore, he can still locate his organs and target them. Trying to figure out a way to help Obanai overcome his visual impairment, Tanjiro decides to give the Hashira one of Yushiro's seals. Suddenly, a crow announces that there are 40 minutes left until dawn. Upon hearing this, MUZAN immediately dashes away, leaving the battle in an attempt to secure himself away from sunlight. Tanjiro quickly yells this out to Obanai, who remembers that MUZAN is not like a human who would act on emotion, and that he would cling to his life first and foremost. MUZAN begins to further the distance between himself and the Demon Slayers, much to Tanjiro's frustration. He suddenly passes through a crowd of Demon Slayer corpses, trampling on them in his way. This frustrates Tanjiro, who reaches the corpses and begins throwing all their swords straight at MUZAN. MUZAN quickly slices through all of them with great concern, as passing attacks would be far worse for him than slashes in his current state. The demon comes to an abrupt halt as Obanai drops from above and stabs him through the top of his chest, jumping away just before MUZAN's whips can swipe at him. Tanjiro slices at the whips with sun breathing to ensure Obanai's safety, but has to throw away Yushiro's seals while defending from MUZAN's ferocious attacks. He yells at Obanai to jump to his right to grab them, but is relieved as Kaburamaru snatches them out of the air. Obanai takes them from the snake and wears them, now able to see better than before. Obanai begins to more effectively attack MUZAN, who starts to pant, realizing that his strength will soon give way. Meanwhile, the battle with MUZAN rages on, as the demon rues the fact that he has still been unable to finish off Tanjiro, sensing that the other Hashira are slowly reviving. MUZAN curses the Demon Slayer Corps, saying that they are like linked beads of rosary which had always been there, trying to end him. A crow announces that there are 35 minutes left until dawn, and upon hearing this, he attempts to split himself into several pieces, the way he had done in his fight with Yorichi. Tanjiro recognizes this technique and realizes what MUZAN is about to do, calling out to Obanai, telling him MUZAN's plan. However, MUZAN finds that he is unable to do so and quickly realizes that this is yet another side effect of Tamayo's medicine. He is shocked yet again as he suddenly coughs up blood. Tamayo's voice echoes in his mind, telling him that there were 4 ingredients to the medicine, and that when the first 3 had weakened him, the 4th would take effect. The 4th being the destruction of MUZAN's cells. With an eerily menacing grin, Tamindio's image tells MUZAN that the death he hated so much throughout his life is now terrifyingly near. The apparition of Tamayo inside MUZAN's head tells him that there is no need for them to be stronger than him to kill him. She says that just as he would do anything to survive, they who had suffered at his hands would do anything to kill him. MUZAN notes that under regular circumstances, he would not be concerned about the bright red blades of the Demon Slayers, as they were all weaker than the bright red blade of Yorichi, and his regeneration would not be so exhausting. This makes the attacks of the Demon Slayers far more effective than they normally would be. Realizing the poison is different from the one used on Doma, MUZAN notes that it will take some time for him to analyze the compound and counteract it. Suddenly, he freezes and stands still, looking at the sky for a moment. Tanjiro believes that the demon has finally started to get exhausted. He and Obanai attempt to capitalize on this opportunity and attack MUZAN, but a giant shockwave with lightning erupts out of the demon's body and strikes everything in close vicinity to him. Huge jaws erupt from MUZAN's torso and run along it diagonally to his back. Tanjiro is still unable to get up and wonders if his lungs were damaged in the attack. Seeing MUZAN walk away in anguish, he becomes desperate. However, the demon stops in his tracks as Inosuke jumps in front of him, saying that MUZAN had really done it now and that he wouldn't stand for it any longer. Enraged, MUZAN attacks Inosuke with Tanjiro calling out for him, but he is only able to weakly flail his whips about, panting. MUZAN realizes that he has become too tired after using this shockwave. Inosuke, huffing and wheezing himself, says that Gyomei had lost his leg trying to protect them, and that Gyu has lost his arm. Continuing, he tells the demon that he had taken the lives of the other demon slayers he had shared meals with. Inosuke demands that MUZAN give them all their lives back, and tearfully says that if he couldn't, he would pay for it with 1,000,000 deaths. MUZAN launches an attack at Inosuke, who manages to jump right out of the way, but just as he lands, MUZAN sends his right arm whips into the ground to catch Inosuke from below, managing to damage the demon slayer. Tanjiro attempts to get up and help his friend, but is unable to, and says that he will die first. Suddenly, Inosuke is saved by Zenitsu, who slices through MUZAN's arm and says that Tanjiro is still alive, as he can hear his heartbeat. Yelling at Tanjiro to continue fighting and to stay alive, Zenitsu tries to bolster his spirits and tell him not to die so that Nezuko could become human again, and they could go back to the house they used to live in. MUZAN smacks Zenitsu into the building, but Inosuke quickly slices his whip to prevent any further damage. The demon is infuriated and attacks Inosuke as well. With Tanjiro desperate to help his friends through their fights, deducing that it could be a blood demon art affecting his nervous system, Tanjiro attempts to undo it by stabbing himself in a non-vital area with his sword. The blade sizzles as it enters his body, and Tanjiro prays that it stops the shaking enough for him to help out in the fight. MUZAN looks on as Zenitsu and Inosuke recover and knows that he is unable to raise his arms anymore. Inosuke and Zenitsu continue to attempt to hold the demon back. Inosuke performs his beast breathing. Fourth Fang, slice and dice. Zenitsu follows it up with his thunder breathing. First form, thunderclap and flash, Godspeed. Zenitsu notes that he is losing his strength and would only be able to muster one more attack with his full strength. He unleashes a thunder-breathing seventh form, Flaming Thunder God, but it only produces a shallow cut on MUZAN. Zenitsu falls to the ground as MUZAN slashes at him. Inosuke intercepts this attack with his beast-breathing fifth fang crazy cutting, following it up with his third fang, Devourer in rapid succession. MUZAN is enraged and unleashes a weaker shockwave from the mouth on his torso that flings Inosuke back. Before MUZAN can do anything else, Tanjiro intervenes and performs sun-breathing burning bones, Summer Sun, rapidly followed by Raging Sunfire Wheel, Beneficent Radiance and Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance, noting that MUZAN needs to allow his shockwaves to charge before using them. Tanjiro attempts to use more of his sun-breathing techniques but coughs up blood before he can attack. Inosuke bails Tanjiro out from MUZAN's counterattack by using beast-breathing Six Fang, Palisade Bite, allowing Tanjiro to unleash sun-breathing, Dance Clear Blue Sky and Fake Rainbow. Zenitsu remembers his mentor Jigoro and asks him to give him the kick he needs, performing another thunder-breathing first form, Thunderclap and Flash, as Inosuke and Tanjiro continue their combined onslaught on MUZAN with their respective sun-breathing and beast-breathing techniques. Inosuke gets knocked back, but Tanjiro is able to continue attacking MUZAN with sun-breathing, setting sun transformation, and Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance, with some help from Zenitsu, who takes a blow intended for Tanjiro to allow his friend to continue attacking. Tanjiro manages to perform successive forms of sun-breathing, Dragon Sun Halo Head Dance, and Raging Sun to pin MUZAN onto a wall with sun-breathing Sunflower Thrust. He is unable to perform more techniques as the mouth on MUZAN's chest attempts to take his blade. Suddenly, Mitsuri grabs MUZAN's left arm and rips it clean off his body in anger, sacrificing her own arms in the process. Sanemi appears and quickly chops off MUZAN's right arm as well with wind-breathing eighth form, Primary Gale Slash. Undaunted, MUZAN opens his mouth wide from his torso to the top of his head and tries to eat Tanjiro with it. However, Obanai steps in and takes the bite instead, protecting Tanjiro as dawn begins to break. The sun begins to rise, and MUZAN Kibutsuji is horrified at the sight of the rising sun. He unleashes another shockwave, blowing Obanai and Sanemi away. However, Tanjiro holds on but loses his entire left arm, resolving to keep holding MUZAN down. Tanjiro attempts to tighten his grip on his sword and make it go bright red, but is unable to do so. Suddenly, Giyu Tomioka appears behind him and also grabs his blade to help keep Muzan pinned down. With both demon slayers holding onto the blade with their combined might, it turns red, and Muzan instantly starts to cough up blood as the sun rises steadily. The demon quickly attempts to think of a way to avoid disintegrating. Muzan attempts to cover himself in a wall of flesh to block the sunlight from hitting his skin, and transforms into a giant baby as the flesh grows outward and begins to swallow up Tanjiro. Muzan throws his head back to headbutt Giyu out of the flesh's growth. Tanjiro gets swallowed into it alongside his blade as Giyu yells out to him. Muzan attempts to crawl away from the scene into some shade, and Kiriya Ubuyashiki orders the remaining members of the Demon Slayer Corps to do everything they can to hinder him. Some lower-ranking demon slayers throw bookshelves on top of Muzan's head from a building, slowing him down, but he still crawls forward. A pair of Kakushi run into him with some cars, yelling at him to die, as Kiriya orders them to all fall back. Muzan crushes the cars and attempts to crawl forward, finding his way blocked by some tram cars held by more Kakushi. Muzan attempts to overcome this hurdle as well as he slowly begins to sizzle. Muzan attempts to crush the Kakushi behind the tram cars with his fists. Sanemi intervenes and slices off Muzan's right arm with wind breathing. 9th form. Idaten Typhoon, and Muzan continues to try and climb over the cars to avoid dying. Gyome throws his chain around the demon's neck, and with the help of some Kakushi pulling on him, the stone Hashira attempts to pull the demon down onto the ground with brute force. He successfully does so, and Kiriya yells for the demon to finally burn and disintegrate. As Queen Ubuyashiki prays for their victory, determined not to die, Muzan continues his resistance and begins to dig underground to avoid the sunlight. Giyu and Sanemi work in tandem to attack the demon and strike him with water breathing. 10th form. Constant flux and wind breathing. 5th form. Cold mountain wind. They are joined by Obanai, who unleashes serpent breathing. 4th form. Twin-headed reptile. However, all three are only able to inflict minor damage. With everyone at their limits, Gyome's chain shatters, and Muzan begins to crawl deeper down with the others, too exhausted to further impede him. Suddenly, Tanjiro tightens his grip on his blade and attacks Muzan from the inside, causing him to erupt in agony and go straight up into the sunlight. The demon finally begins to disintegrate as he cries out. The sun rises on a new day, and Muzan Kibutsuji finally disintegrates. The battle is finally over. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.